Hey everybody, I apologize for the video being a little bit later in the week. Again, I've been bad with tardiness this year, and for that I am sorry. But we got a big one against the Detroit Lions coming up this Sunday, and of course, I have to offer some reaction to the Bills' loss to the Rams. 44-42. There's a lot to unpack there. What do we start with? Do we work backwards here? I guess the big conversation after the game is the timeout usage. So let's start there. I would say when the Bills started the drive, that drive where they're trailing 44-35, they're probably something like 3 or 4% to win the game. Maybe even less. I honestly don't know. I don't have the win probabilities in front of me, but I'm sure they were less than 5% to win the game. Trailing by 2 scores, 2 minutes to go, or however much time was left. And just the situation doesn't typically bode well for the position that they were in. But they drive down the field. They're getting chunk play after chunk play, as they did all day. Josh Allen continuing to prove his MVP worthiness. This is something we talked about last week, and he does it again this week. 6 total touchdowns, over 400 in total yards, 342 passing, 82 on the ground. Great job by him overall. Should win the MVP. That's one of the, like I said, a declaration of MVP worthiness. Another one. He has moments. He doesn't have the robust numbers, even though this game was robust with statistics and fantasy points. He doesn't have as robust of numbers as some of the other quarterbacks in the game or in the MVP hunt. But he has more moments. He has, this game, this 6-touchdown game. I guess this is a statistical game, but it's kind of a moment as well, despite the fact that they lose. But he has, like, the Cooper play last week, the Cooper flip touchdown dive, things like that. Now, those are the things that people tend to remember. They're moment makers. MVP can be about moments more so than statistics. We saw this last year with Lamar Jackson. Josh Allen had better stats. Lamar Jackson won the MVP. The run against Kansas City, another good example. A moment. An MVP moment. Anyway, the Bills are driving down the field. They get into the red zone. They get to the 1-yard line, in fact. And I don't really have an issue with this play call. This push/sneak has worked for them. Works for them maybe 90% of the time. Coach McDermott even acknowledged after the game, he's like, this has really been our best play in short yardage situations. And I know that time is working against you here, but I don't really hate the play call. What I need them to do is, it didn't work. Darn it. Okay, we got to get up. They need to know what to do right away. Maybe they did. But I don't know what caused Coach McDermott to take the timeout, or the timeout to come from the sideline, or whomever told him to take the timeout. But I need that person to know. This isn't necessarily Coach McDermott. It could be somebody who is like, yeah, you need to take this timeout. Somebody with analytics or something. I don't know. Okay? It's probably Coach McDermott, but I don't know the answer to that. I just need him to know why taking the timeout there is incorrect. Because by taking the timeout, you have immediately stripped your quarterback's chances of getting the ball back. I mean, just decimated them. Those are your last lines of defense. I suspect that he knows this. I really do. And maybe in just a panicky moment, he took the timeout. Because you're saving time on a play later, maybe. But, I mean, just think about it. I don't even know how to word this. Like, we need to save the time now. Well, not really, because now you're relegating your chances to an onside kick. Like, that is it. Now you either recover the onside kick or you probably lose the game because you might get the ball back with 15 or 20 seconds left. And they don't even get that. There's a story there, too, I guess. I guess I got to finish the timeout thing first. Now I'm thinking about the punt return. I got to finish the timeout thing. I don't mean to, just bring Bill Belichick into the conversation, but I remember, maybe it was in a book, or I can't remember if it was something I read or just like an interview I heard, where somebody asked him, like, hey, why is your team, the Patriots, why are they, so perfect in these situations? Why does everything seem to always go their way? It's like, well, we practice this. Yeah, that's what I need. I need them to be ready for that situation. I think in terms of timeout management, that is pretty basic knowledge, and it might have just been I think teenagers playing Madden understand timeout usage. I really do. Because when you need the ball back and the other team presumably has 3 plays, and you have 3 timeouts, that is how you're going to use the timeouts. I'm not yelling at anybody here. I'm just, like, I'm explaining, I think, what maybe everybody already knows. Maybe what Coach McDermott has hopefully learned from the situation. And some of you might be like, Greg, he's in year 7 or 8 or whatever year he's in. It's like, I understand that. I get that. Okay, if you want to criticize him for that, I'll listen to your point. All I'm saying is I just would like to know that he understands why that's wrong. Because, again, you have crippled your chances of getting the ball back to Josh Allen. You need to save the timeouts. Again, those are your last lines of defense against the clock. So if you waste 20 seconds here lining up and running the play again and unpiling and stuff, that's just because your play didn't work, unfortunately. And again, I have no problem with the push sneak because it works a lot. It works very well, in fact. It just didn't work here, which is really unfortunate. But those 20 seconds or whatever that you're going to waste there are not worth the timeout because you're hurting your chances by missing, obviously, and letting the clock continue to run. You're hurting your chances of possibly winning the game, of course. But by taking the timeout, again, I've said it 3 times. It's pretty much over. It's onside kick or nothing. Tom Brady even acknowledged as much on the broadcast. He's like, oh, I hate that timeout. Like, now you it's onside kick. Your chances of winning are 3% or less. And they probably already were. But, like, the chance of recovering an onside kick are like 3%. Anyway, the Bills don't end up getting the ball back. The Rams are able to run the clock out on a punt where the Bills only had 9 men on the field for punt return, and the punt I think it landed in the end zone, but I think, you know, if you're reading the clock there, I'd like for Codrington to return that. I mean, I know this is probably your last chance. You know, it's definitely your last chance. Could have even tried. I don't know the rule here, because it landed in the end zone, but there is a fair catch free kick, and the thought crossed my mind, like, what if he just sky highs this, and there's like 2 seconds left, and you can try the fair catch free kick, where you do have to kick it off the ground, but like the punt returner can call for fair catch, and wherever he catches it, the kicker can kick from there, like with a holder, and the defense has to be 10 yards back. It's like a free kick. It's like it's forfeiting your possession, essentially, because you're kicking to the other team. But if you make it through the uprights, it's 3 points. And that would have won the game. Didn't end up mattering. I just wanted to bring that up because that thought was running through my head. Having said that, 9 men on the return, not a great look. I don't know what happened there. Wasn't obviously a banner day for special teams. Another thing that happened that typically ends up being a big deal at the end of these games is the block punt. It's unfortunate, obviously. It's just unfortunate when it happened, that it happened. It's always, I mean, when it happened is always unfortunate because you don't really have room for a block punt return for a touchdown against any team, let alone a good team. That is how, those are the types of things that typically flip games, especially with, you know, everything is kind of like a low point spread now. The point spread is like 7 or less in a lot of games. And I'm telling you, these point spreads don't take into account block punt returns for touchdowns. So when you get that flips the result of games all the time. And there's all this, like, I've seen these things like, oh, Josh Allen's the first quarterback to lose with this, or 6 touchdowns, or 400 yards, or whatever, and no turnovers. And the Bills and the team had no turnovers. Well, they did. Josh Allen didn't have a turnover, but a blocked punt return for a touchdown is a turnover. It's the same thing. It's really just as bad as a pick six, a fumble six, anything like that. It is bad. Anyway. Sorry, I'm just like, I needed that moment right there. I was just like, ugh. A real frustrating game. Real frustrating from the get-go, honestly. I try not to overreact to the first drive defense for the Bills. That's my thing. I'm like, just first drive defense. They're feeling them out. They're playing very bare bones. I seriously think the Bills do this. Let me get I think Coach McDermott is like, let me get a view of what the Rams are going to do on offense with their scripted plays, and I will react to that. So, He knows he's going to score more than 7 points. I'm not saying he spots team 7 points on purpose, but he has Josh Allen. He can be pretty confident in the offense. The offense that has scored 30 points or more in now 7 consecutive games. So I don't overreact to the first drive defense. The Rams go right down the field and get a touchdown. The Bills answer, bang. Awesome. So I'm like, okay, second drive. Rams go right down the field, score a touchdown. I'm like, oh boy, could be one of these. Bills get the ball back, block punt return for a touchdown. I'm like, it's one of those days. But a great job by the Bills to battle back. There's a couple things there, you know. There's just a couple things in there. A block punt, a mishandled timeout. The declining of the penalty on third down. I think you have good reason to believe that the Rams would have gone for it again rather than kick the field goal of death in that situation. Field goal of death meaning going up 6 and like kicking off to Josh Allen where you're almost certainly going to lose. I don't know. That's a coaching decision. That is a true coaching decision where you have to decide what to do. And I don't really know the correct answer because I think the Rams still would have gone for it. So I understand backing them up to 3rd and 18. What I don't understand is like playing like this drop cover 3 or something, or I don't even know what it was, where you're just going to forfeit the throw to the tight end and he just comes up and gets like 11 or 12 yards and bang, you're right back in 4th and 5 again. So you're right back in the same situation. They go for it, they get it. I mean, the Bills didn't stop the Rams until like, end of the 3rd quarter, early 4th, something like that. And it ended up getting to the point where they needed 2 stops, and they could only get 1. Because they were down 3 scores at one point, but the Bills battled back, like I said, to make it a 2-score game. They needed 2 stops. They got 1, make it a 1-score game, couldn't get another. The only disappointment with the offense, honestly, is the end of first half, beginning of second half. Josh said he has to be better, and everybody's like, oh, no, we stand you, King. Like, that's how Twitter tends to react to Josh Allen. People tend to just act like he's their son or something like that. I get it. He was fantastic. Don't get me wrong. The guy was fantastic. But, like, those 2 possessions in the middle of the half were tough. Like, they punted on both of them. That is, like, it went touchdown, Rams, Bills punt, end of half, Bills punt, touchdown, Rams. That's the Rams wrapping 14 points around your 2 possessions where you have this opportunity to double dip. And I don't even think single dip is a word, but you don't get any points. And that is massive missed opportunity for the Bills. They went 3 and out coming out of the locker room. And then the Rams went down the field, 76 yards, 11 plays, 5 minutes, touchdown. It felt kind of over. Like I said, again, a nice job by the Bills to just keep playing. But that was my lone area of criticism, I guess, for the offense. That was it. Those are like important. There's just important possessions. Obviously, I'm not gonna like downplay the importance of really any possession, but you really want like those going into the locker room, coming out of the locker room points. Those are like, because everyone's acting like it's a 2-minute drill near the end of the half, and it's beneficial. You guys get it. You get it. I didn't plan to talk that long about the Rams game. So let's talk about the Lions. What's there to say about the Lions really hasn't already been said. Anyway, I wanted to say one more thing about the Rams game. Defense, of course. Like, come on. I know that this happens. This tends to happen to the Bills once, maybe twice a year. It hasn't really happened to them since Baltimore this year, but like not this bad. I mean, they gave up the season high in yards allowed, season high, or second most pass yards allowed this season. I think Houston had more. But most points allowed, of course. The Rams, I don't think, had scored 30 points all season. They scored 44. They go on Thursday Night Football and score 12. They even scored a touchdown. Granted, their defense was better there as well. And those divisional matchups on short weeks are sometimes like that. But whatever. I'd be surprised if the Bills' defense had another performance like that, if they were healthy and all there and not playing the Detroit Lions on the road. So I'm not sure what to expect this week because I do expect them to be a little bit more tight-knit than they were, a little bit more buttoned up. Because who had a good game on Sunday against the Rams on defense? Who did? Benford, I guess, had the best game. But the defensive line wasn't good. The linebackers weren't good at the second level. And then, masterclass by Sean McVay. He was just picking apart this Bills' zone defense. Those receivers, Nakua, Kupp, knew exactly where to go, and they just picked the Bills apart. It looked like practice, like 7-on-7. Nobody even sniffed Matt Stafford. I mean, I think he got flushed out of the pocket maybe 2 times the whole game. It was bad. From top to bottom, bad. It was Sean McDermott said after the game, they lost 2 of 3 phases. They won on offense, they lost on defense, they lost on special teams. I agree. First time all year they didn't force a turnover either. Because they couldn't, because the receivers were open, they couldn't get sacks, so there's really no opportunities for that. Anyway, I did not plan to talk this long about the Rams. What was I going to say? What has been said about the Lions that really hasn't already been said? I mean, they're just pretty much everybody's favorite darling, at least in the NFC. Super Bowl favorite right now. Jared Goff in the running for MVP. 2 great running backs in Montgomery and Gibbs. Really good receivers. St. Brown, Jameson Williams. A little bit beat up on defense, but they are getting some guys back. Aleem McNeil, fantastic defensive tackle. He should be back in the lineup alongside DJ Reader. Josh Pascal should be back. They're still a little bit banged up at the second level with the linebackers. Safeties are still really good. Kirby Joseph, Brian Branch. A lot of people think they have a pretty dirty reputation. I've seen some of that. Admittedly, I have seen some of that, so I understand it. This is a tough task, especially because the Bills are dealing with some injuries of their own, especially on defense, really only on defense. Looks like Keon Coleman and Dalton Kincaid will be back for the offense. That's cool. That's fun. The Bills have been fine without them, but I have no problem adding more to it. The defensive injuries, the Taylor Rapp, the Rasul Douglas we know is out. Taylor Rapp, it looks like, isn't going to play. I've seen some tweets about him not going to be available. I don't know the legitimacy of those tweets. But if he doesn't play, and then Damar Hamlin's also questionable, like, could you be looking at, like, your secondary as Christian Benford? That's fine. Christian Benford, Kaiir Elam, or Jamarcus Ingram, and then some combination of Cam Lewis, Cole Bishop. I don't think they'll play Micah Hyde, like signing him off the street with 1 week of practice, 2 weeks of practice. Maybe they'll elevate him and use him if they need to, but like that's... The Bills are never really susceptible to the deep ball, but with Jameson Williams in the game, a guy who can certainly take the top off the defense, and some inexperience at safety, and guys who just typically don't see a ton of snaps at corner, that's nerve-wracking, to say the least. And they don't even really need to throw the ball that much anyway, typically, because they're so good running the ball with Gibbs and Montgomery, and they have one of the best offensive lines ever created, it seems like. I mean, they are fantastic with Decker and Ragnow and Penei Sewell, like, if that's how it's pronounced, Penei Sewell. But the guy's going in the Hall of Fame. Sewell's going in the Hall of Fame. He's in, his second or third year? He's going in the Hall of Fame. I promise you. Generational tackle. Tall task. Very tough task for the Bills. The offense has to be near flawless again. We just saw a near flawless performance from them this past week. We can see that again. I think another thing coming out of the Rams game, I don't mean to like go back to that, but James Cook had 6 carries for 20 yards, and it didn't matter. I want more of that. Not 6 carries for 20 yards, but maybe like 10 or 12 James Cook carries, a handful maybe for Ty Johnson sprinkled in there, or Ray Davis or whatever. And I want Josh Allen firing this thing all over the yard, because that is when the Bills are at their best. It is obvious. Not when they're trying to establish the run. You didn't need to last week, and you scored 42 points. Josh Allen running was your best threat. Use him. He's the MVP. Let it run through him. I guess I got to pick. I got to pick the game. This just seemed like this felt like a loss in the past few weeks, like maybe even throughout the entire year. It's like, you're going to be in tough there at Detroit. They look like, I mean, are they going to win the rest of their games, though? They haven't lost since week 2. Are they going to win out, like, the rest of their games? Like, the rest of their regular season games, maybe. Or maybe they just drop one because they have the 1 seed locked up towards the end of the season, week 18 against Minnesota. I'm going to pick Detroit. I hardly ever pick against the Bills, but the secondary injuries are a little concerning. Again, I do expect them to be better than they were last week, but I could still see Detroit, getting the 30 points, no problem. I don't want to say no problem, but I think the Bills are going to get the 30 as well. I'm going to say like 34-30. 34-30 Bills over, Bills. I'm so used to saying Bills over the other team. Lions over Bills, 34-30. Guys, hit me up on my YouTube, or hit me up on Twitter/X. My YouTube username and Twitter handle are the same. Hit me up in the comments. Let me know if you have any thoughts about really anything I've said here. Again, apologies for the lateness of the video this week, but enjoy your weekend. And as always, above all else, go Bills.